What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Hope everybody's doing good, having a great weekend. Not only has the movie season started, but of course, TV has just been off to a great foot this year, specifically The Last of Us on HBO, because we are now talking episode 6. We are in the second trimester of this season, so we only got 3 more after this left. It's going to be very bittersweet when this season ends, because God knows how long it'll take for the next one to do. I mean, especially if you... For those of us who played the games, I'm thinking it probably won't be out for another couple of years. Because HBO's kind of bad on the trend.
Yeah, judging on how long it's been taking for a lot of these premium shows to get made, it's at least a couple of years now. So, I mean, with the amount of budget and work that they're putting into it, it shows, for sure. I mean, it sucks to have to wait long, but at the end, I think it's a little bit worth it to see all that. All that good work being done, and it doesn't feel like it was rushed or anything.
Yeah, like you said, it's a bummer to wait, but at the same time, I would rather have it be good quality show instead of just rushing it out there. Plus, again, I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but it's like for those who played part 2, it's like you kind of have to wait a couple years because Bella Ramsey is only like 19, so I think they could probably do a little something with her like makeup and stuff just to it doesn't I don't want to get into it too much without spoiling stuff. So we're gonna talk episode 6, guys. It is gonna of course be a spoiler session as always, so if you didn't watch the episode, please come on back and check it out so you can dive in with us and see if maybe we caught something that you didn't or vice versa, whatever. And of course, please do not forget to give us a like, ring the bell, and of course press that little subscribe button. We really would appreciate it. And I want to keep the community going, as always. So, so this episode definitely started off with... I mean, again, I think, it's gone... The flow of this show has been very, very well done, even when the first couple had, like, flashback or... Yeah, I would consider them, like, flashback or little, like, all, like, no... Not necessarily no-name characters, but just random characters come in. But this one, it's kind of funny, because it was random characters that have never been in the game or anything, but... it's in the current timeline, so they were so much fun. That Native American couple on the, I think they're in Wyoming. Where are they at again? Where are they supposed to be?
They're somewhere in Wyoming. In the outskirts. It seems like outside of the city for sure.
Yeah, just because when the lovely Native American couple that that Joel and Ellie run into, sort of, or basically hold hostage, or played by Graham Greene, he's been a staple of Hollywood for years. He's been all kinds of stuff. He was also most notably in one of my favorite movies, Wind River, directed by Taylor Sheridan, which he made a kind nod to when they were asking him, like Joel, about where he's been in Wyoming, like, Wind River Reservation, all these other things. They said, no, it's completely it's like completely dead. He's like, well, yeah, because everything that wherever there was people, it's gone now. Like, good luck. So it was just like a nice little nod for him to kind of, tip the hat to his other movies, and his wife, played by Elaine Miles, was again so hilarious, and they're so laid back, like like they're kind of coming off like, how do I put this? They're almost like very calm assholes here and there, but then Joel and Ellie are holding him at gunpoint essentially, so it's like, but they're so lovable. I was just grinning every time they talked in that whole scene. It was so good.
Yeah, they're just so pleasantly casual about the whole situation. This hostage situation that they're in. When he's asking her, like, why don't you fight back? And well, the gun's way over there. Like, she couldn't be bothered to get up to defend herself or anything. And you made them soup. Yeah, it's cold outside. Like, they're just so awesome. Like, and then like the little bit of history that they have when he's like, we settled out here a long time ago before you were born, and we wanted to get away from the people. And she's like, I didn't want to come here. So it's a nice little thing, like it hints at a history with these, like you kind of get an idea of who these people are in their brief interactions here. But what a funny like moment of levity for the show, and I think we absolutely needed it with the way the last episode ended, and it was super heavy and just so heartbreaking. So we needed a little bit of levity here, and this fantastic couple gave it to us in spades, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely, such a great scene, and it's funny because the whole show so far has kind of ended and began on like somewhat bittersweet notes, or very like just sad moments and stuff. So this was definitely a good change of pace, but in the end it still ended with the sad thing where they were talking about, don't go past this river because anyone who has, there's always river. The bodies just kind of flow down river. You see them along the banks, and we're definitely seeing Joel's vulnerability. Whether you like this show or not, or like which character version better, the game or the show, they're both great. Don't get me wrong. I think the show does a way better job of making Joel much more, I would say maybe relatable to a certain extent, just because, after they told him, like, if your brother's passed the river, he's probably dead. Like, sorry, but that's the truth. And he has that moment. He basically has like an anxiety attack, like a panic attack outside where he can't breathe. He's rubbing his chest to try and just calm down. And Ellie's really starting to care about him more so too. Like, she's like, "Are you okay? Like, are you dying?" And he's like, "No, I'm not dying." Like, like there's a bitter old married couple, and then there's just this, a very bitter old like father and daughter dynamic. So I'm just loving that stuff. But I think this episode overall had the best acting. I know you and I were talking about that, so I think you'll agree with me. Am I right, Bern?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I was telling you in our private conversations that if you're submitting episodes, for Emmy consideration, this is definitely one that you would submit for both Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, because there was so much great acting from the two there, and yeah, and just the very beginning here where you see Joel having this panic attack and him reacting to the situation or the possibility that Tommy might be dead and he's come all this way for nothing, and just like that being added to the notch on his belt of failures on this journey that he's had. It's just like all just sort of closing in on him, and he's just crumbling under that weight. It's so sad to see, and I do agree with your observation that this Joel here in the show, he's a lot more vulnerable than the Joel that we had. Well, the Joel that we had got in the game, who was a little bit more cold and very like standoffish to everyone and doesn't really let his emotions out. Here, Pedro's playing him a lot more vulnerably, and I think for the show that's great. That's a great choice, because we need to see the humanity of this character, so he's not just this sort of brick wall, that's just all, he's the prototypical action hero. That no, like he's a real person, and he has all this damage and all this baggage that he's constantly carrying around with him, and now it's just sort of like he's starting to crumble underneath all that weight, and it's such a sad thing to see. It just makes this character very sad and tragic in a way.
Yeah, no, he has had a tragic life, so it just makes most sense. Like, yeah, the video game is, again, it's not that it's an unrealistic version, but it's like, it's a much more darker one than we get in the show. And just replaying the game is like, man, Joel, it moves a little bit on a more unrealistic pace, how Joel, teaches Ellie's like certain stuff and all that. Where in the show, Joel is very like, how do I put this? Yeah, he's very hesitant to teach her all this stuff, and he's very hesitant to like, he's just not where he's at. In the video game, you could be unstoppable and all that stuff essentially. Where in real life, it just wouldn't be that way. So that's what I'm really liking about this one. Mm-hmm. And the way the episode played out is very much like the game. They find the dam, and then when they get, I don't remember this in the game, but I like though that they get like held up by these like group of horsemen essentially, and they have a dog to sniff them. Like, okay, the dog will eat you if you're infected. If not, you're good. Yeah. And I was pretty scared there too. It did such a great job of building that tension where even Bella Ramsey is like thinking like, oh shit, this is way worse than that stupid scanner. Mm-hmm. But then the dog was just like, she's all right. She's chill. She's playing with it and stuff, giving it affection. So, and what I will say that got me super excited was I forgot the name of the town until I saw the sign, but I was like, oh, that's right. This is where Tommy ends up settling up. And again, it's such a great foreshadowing for season 2. It was just so nice to see Jackson all done up in live action and really so getting the feel of like this is an oasis in this wasteland essentially. Not like a very plentiful wasteland because it's like snow, there's trees and stuff, but it's like all the death and destruction and despair outside in the world. This is the one place where you could feel like, man, I could have a life here. This gives me a glimpse of what it used to be like.
Yeah,
And
it's a far cry from these torn down cities and these run down quarantine zones we've seen up to this point. This feels like an actual like community, like or normal lifestyle that we sort of think about now. It's like it seems like something that's almost impossible and out of reach in this world, but it's right there. It exists and it can happen. And yeah, I agree with you. Seeing Jackson was super dope.
yeah, I got all excited. I got goosies, and I just thought about part 2, which I'm excited to replay once I'm done with part 1.
Oh, for sure.
And again, it was just great, that moment between Tommy and Joel when he just yells Tommy, and he sees him again. Gabriel Luna just. They're both the best casting of this show so far. Like, again, I was a little worried when we heard about it like a couple years ago, but I was like, man. But seeing him with the long hair, the jacket, and everything, I was like, God damn it, that's Tommy, you son of a bitch. I loved it. And again, it was a great moment of like, they're just them like really embracing you. It's just like, man, why'd you come out here? It's like, I came to save you. And they both kind of laugh like, well, I'm good now.
Yeah, I'm saved.
Oh man, and yeah, the rest of it played out pretty well. I don't remember much else that happened in the game. I just remember we met up with Tommy at the dam or something like that. Had to help him out.
Yeah.
But this time, well, no, go ahead, Bert.
Oh no, just to clear it up, for people who don't know, a lot of the part of this game the part of this section of the story takes place in the game at the dam that we briefly see in this episode. We don't see Jackson, the inside of Jackson. We kind of see it off in the distance towards the end of this particular subplot. But the big moments of this episode happen there at the dam. We don't really get into Jackson. So this is a little bit of a departure from the game. But it's one that I think it works really well for the show. And then we get to see Jackson and where Tommy's been this whole time. Other than, a dam outside of the city that they're living. So, yeah, this was a really cool change. And like you said, a really cool tease for things we're going to get in part 2. Or season 2.
Exactly. And I thought one thing that kind of made me laugh, it's probably just me being diving deep into it, but as they're walking through with Tommy's lady, Maria, who's basically the duly elected like mayor of the town, even though she doesn't say mayor, but she's like, oh, I'm head of the council, democratically elected and all this stuff. And it's funny because then when they're talking about like, oh, all the animals are for everybody, all this is, we all share everything, it's like, and Joel's like, so like communist, like communism, like just being a typical like patriotic American.
Yeah,
like,
no, Texan boy,
Yeah, and she's like, yes, it is. That's exactly, we're a commune. And Tommy's face just, damn it, like I fought for this shit, like, kind of realization. Oh my god, it was just kind of like a little jab, like just kind of a funny little joke. He's like, damn, I fought for this, like whatever, all right.
Like, oh my god.
And then this is a bit of for those who haven't played part 2, this is a bit of a spoiler, but I do have to talk about it. That chick in the cafeteria, like when they're just munching down and stuff, and Ellie again this episode has really shown she's turning into Joel. Like when they were, before they got to Jackson, how she's kind of like standing watch with the rifle or like checking all the area and stuff. And then she's just being standoffish just like him, where that girl's looking at her from behind the post, and she's like, what the hell are you looking at? And the girl walks away. It was like, were you thinking the same thing? That could be hinting at Dina, or was Dina herself?
Yes. So,
okay,
not to get like too into the weeds of it, but that could potentially be Dina, who is a character in the second game. And I don't want to say more than that, but I think it definitely was her. And once we get introduced to that character properly in the next season, we'll talk about it. But I'm fairly certain that had to have been a hint at Dina.
Oh, absolutely. Just the girl looked a lot like the video game character / game model, essentially, like the person they modeled it after. So I thought that was great. And then Tommy and Joel's reunion was just straight up sad, because Joel's like wants Tommy to help him take Ellie down to where were they going again? I'm sorry, to the Fireflies down by the state university, right?
Yeah, the University of Eastern Colorado, where they were supposed to be holed up.
That's right. And Tommy's being very hesitant, like, and they're just kind of hashing it out, like, oh, because you feel bad for what we did, you can't help me. It's like, no, I'm not judging you. It just, we find out that he has a kid, which was not in the game, so that was kind of that was a nice change. I remember asking you, I'm like, I don't even remember Maria being in the first game too much. I just remember we talked mostly to Tommy, and that's pretty much it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so point of view focused. You stay in Joel's perspective, and Ellie and Maria go off and have their own, conversations that we don't get to see. We get to see here in the show, and I thought that was really cool. But yeah, we didn't really get too much of her in the first game.
okay, cool. Like I said, I was just when I was watching, I was like, wait, I don't remember any of this. So, like the Jackson part, I remember definitely didn't happen. But I was like, wait, was Maria really even in it? So, thank you for clarifying that. And that was just kind of it was a big pill for Joel to swallow, which again, Pedro played it beautifully, that Tommy is now going to be a father himself. And it just kind of put things into perspective for him. Like the tables have turned. Like, Tommy was always kind of the punk brother getting in trouble with stuff and being a fool. And now he's thriving in this place in Jackson. And it's just kind of one of those, again, it just put into perspective for him. Like, holy shit, like maybe my life is not where it should be, or like it could have been a lot better had I made the right choices and all this stuff. And that part where you see the girl with Sarah's hair and everything, I was like, oh, that's such a good scene, but it's so sad because it's that perfect moment of this is what it could have been like had she lived, had I made, kind of blaming himself for everything, like had I done the right stuff, she would be here having her own family. And they were talking like, oh, I'll probably have a sheep farm. It's quiet. So I thought that was funny. It's just like, really? A sheep farmer? That's what you want to be, Joel? But, teach their own. Especially in the apocalypse. Like, might as well do what you want to do.
Yeah. I mean, that whole section is sort of like a moment of reflection for Joel. Ever since Sarah's death, his entire world stopped. Like he's been stuck in this sort of just like constant state of just being angry and mad at the world and just not being able to open up again, with him and Tess, and how she said, that she hinted that he never really opened up to her, and yeah, like he's just been stuck in this state of just miserableness, and to see, his baby brother, like, him having moved on and starting a life of his own, he's a little bit resentful of that, like he feels like, if I'm feeling this way, everyone else does, like, why does everyone else get to move on and find happiness in this place when I can't, so it's sad that he can't be happy for his own brother, whether he can't be happy for, him being married, and then him not being able to be happy about him potentially being a father, so it's a very sad state for Joel. And yeah, that moment of realization when he sees who he thinks like could be when he's daydreaming, essentially, that could be, my daughter, and that could be my granddaughter, like if the world hadn't gone the way it gone, I would have been a grandpa now, and things would have been so different. And like I said, it's a moment of reflection, because he's like, this is sort of things that they didn't happen because of what happened, but they also didn't happen because I haven't allowed them to. I haven't been able to move on and try to start a new life. I've just been stuck.
Yeah, all that, Bernie, all that you just said. I was going to say, I lost my train of thought for a second, so that's why I said that. But in all honesty, I do agree with you. But I don't blame Joel. To be honest, like, it's hard.
No, of course not.
With everything that's happened, how are you not angry? It's so hard to move on with what happened. But I will say this. I definitely did not like Maria this episode. Like, she's a great character and she's a good person. I just couldn't fucking stand her. Especially I was on Ellie and Joel's side this whole time. Like, taking their guns, taking their shit, and just being so, like suspicious. Given, of course, that's what a sane person would do in this whole situation. But, and then just trying to be friends with Ellie, but also really judging Joel when it's like, Joel has basically gotten her to this point. They've gone through some shit already. So where do you kind of come off like saying, oh, well, you got to be careful with him? It's like, I love that Ellie pointed out, oh, what about Tommy? He did the same shit. Is he okay now? And she's like, she can't help but admit, like, all right, true. Like, again, it was just kind of that thing of just don't be a hypocrite. But Maria was right, though. The people that you trust, and sometimes they'll end up betraying you just because of whatever circumstance, and it hurts the most. So she's just trying to prep Ellie for that, and I don't blame him. But
yeah, like from their conversation, while she's like cutting her hair and stuff, we get the idea that Tommy has told her about the time that he and Joel were out surviving together and the things that they did, or maybe the things that Joel forced him to do, or just basically this the implication of that they were doing horrible things to other people, to probably innocent people, to survive. So yeah, by the time she meets him and brings him into Jackson, she has her mind made up about who Joel is as a person. So yeah, that conflict between her and Ellie, where Ellie's like, she's been on this journey with Joel, and she's grown to like him, and she's the one coming to bat for him. Like she's coming to his defense, and that was like an interesting dynamic. This whole episode is a series of conversations where the dynamics are constantly changing, and characters are bringing their own like personal perspectives into it, and we get to see that all play out. It's almost like an action sequence, but just character moments, and those were all really cool, I thought.
Speak on perspective. It was a great dynamic to see how, Tommy and Ellie are essentially the outliers with this, where Joel and Maria were the ones who really felt lost. Because when she saw the little like blackboard, like memorial essentially to Kevin and Sarah, that's when Ellie finally realizes, like, oh, Sarah was Joel's daughter. Like, man, no wonder. Like, she's basically saying in a nice way, like, no wonder he's an asshole. But it's just interesting to see that Maria, again, she began thriving. Kind of like what you brought up earlier, that this is the life he could have had he moved on and tried to make the best of everything. And, she went down the lighter way, like the happier way, and he just went down the dark road. So I thought that was, like you said, a great perspective and dynamic with that. And the scene, I think, between not only just Pedro and Bella with, like, Joel and Ellie, but I think between, Pedro and Gabriel Luna, like when they're in the leather shop, him trying to fix his stupid boots and he gives him a fresh pair, and him just finally opening up on, like, listen, dude, I'm deaf. I'm old. I don't move the same as I can. I can't hear shit anymore. Finally just saying I am vulnerable, and I'm really worried if I go to the Fireflies, the Ellie may not make it because of me. And that it was just such a tender moment. It's like, wow, it's like, that takes a lot for someone to do. Most people would say, nah, you don't want to share your feelings like that because it makes you look weak. But with Joel, that was the only way he could express himself to his brother, kind of apologizing for him reacting to everything, but also putting into perspective that, not only can I not do this, but she is immune. Like, she's had bites on her arm for weeks and she's fine. So it's a big deal, and that's why it's even more important for Tommy to take her. It was just such a great moment, just a good, like, moment between brothers. And just Joel really opening himself up, especially for people who haven't played the game. I think this is a very good way for people to kind of relate to this character. Like how I mentioned earlier, that he's very relatable.
Yeah, I mean, this was such a beautiful performance by Pedro in this scene, and this is the scene in particular that came to mind when I'm like, this is the one you got to submit for for awards consideration, because yeah, the moment where he's pouring his heart out to his brother, it felt so real, and it felt so vulnerable, where he's basically laying it out, like he's worried that he is incapable of getting this girl to the Fireflies alive. Then that's where his insecurities lie. And at this point in the game, Joel is still at that state of, oh, I don't want to let this girl in because I feel like I might get attached. Here, he's already attached, and because he's attached, he's worried that he's not good enough to get this mission done. And that is just so heartbreaking to see, because yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this entire journey has been almost a series of failures for Joel. Not being able to keep Tess alive, or Henry and Sam alive, and the different moments where he's had to get saved by Ellie, and where because he's deaf, couldn't hear the guy sneak up on him, couldn't hear Henry and Sam sneak up on him. So and him falling asleep at the beginning of this episode, he's like coming to terms with, I'm getting old, and I might not be the right person to get her to where she needs to go and to save the world. Like, I might screw this up so bad and get this girl killed. So it was so sad to see that, and we see what's the cause of his panic attacks. Because he is starting to care, he's starting to be afraid again, and it's like, Oh man, like it was acted so perfectly by Pedro in this scene, and just so well done. And again, a different perspective on Joel, but one that I think is equally as emotionally impactful for this character. And this whole sequence was fantastic, and there was not a dry eye, in my watch party, of people that I watched it with. So yeah, hats off to this scene, and it was so well done.
Me personally, I don't think I could cry for. I don't think there's anything else that could make me cry like Bill and Frank's story did in this show. So I'm going to say that right now. But then that conversation right from the game where Joel and Ellie are potentially at a split road, and it's funny because Joel's line about that you don't know what loss, you've never known what loss is like, but she says I've lost people who either died or they just left me because they didn't know what to do with me. So, don't tell me what loss is. And it's, again, they're both just telling each other, like, listen, I care about you, like, but Joel doesn't want anything to happen to her, but Ellie doesn't want to leave him because she feels the safest with him, even with everything that's happened. So that was a very heartfelt moment between these two characters, because they're so brash and they're so like grizzled by the world they're living in, but now they're finding solace within each other. So it was just like some of those powerful things since episode 3 with Bill and Frank. So I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was just those two scenes back to back were just the emotional like gut punch of this episode, essentially. Where, yeah, in this scene, it's a very iconic scene from the game, where we get that conversation between the two of them in the bedroom. But the context leading into the scene is so different, where it sort of changes the tone of it, or it changes the implications of it. And again, like it works so well as a companion piece to the game, because you get these two exact scenes, but you take something different away from it. And in this version here, we get the sense that these characters care about each other so much that they both have different ideas of what the right approach for the rest of their journey is. What they both think is like, what's the way we need to go to get this thing done. And they have a disagreement, and it is very heartbreaking in this moment to see that they don't fall on the same side of what they think is right.
Yeah, but the rest of the episode ended on a good note, sort of. Or at least after this, where, like Joel at the stable is just, listen, this is the last chance. If you want me to go, and she's like, yes. Gives him the bag. He's like, okay. Like, kind of what it's like. All right, that's nice, thank you. And, teaching her how to shoot, definitely in probably a better circumstance than in the game, because in the game it's like, I was replaying it last night, that you're up against all these guys, and Ellie just picks up a rifle and just starts shooting and stuff, where this time he's teaching her, and I like the little back and forth, like, the target's too small. It's like, I made it bigger than what it was, like, come on. And she's like, it doesn't look right, and he aces it first shot, and she's like, you dick. And so I thought that was great. They're finally having conversations about, like, where he's teaching her about football. They're talking about, his old life and stuff, finally opening up with each other.
Mm-hmm. Him wanting to be a singer.
Yeah, all that stuff. And then when they get to the college, it was pretty intense, where, there's the firefly symbol on the sign, but it's all deathly quiet, except for the monkeys from the lab, which was a great little shine from the game.
Yeah.
And then when those raiders are there, because, Tommy did mention, there's a bunch of, like, packs of, like, raiders and hunters and stuff out between here and the college, so you should be fine, though. Just that last part was, I saw that coming. As soon as they got to the college, and when they got surprised about the dude, it was like, oh, shit. And you see the little piece of that baseball bat stuck in, and I was like, no, not this point of the game, not yet. Where, they run away, but Joel falls off his horse, and Ellie's just freaking out, like, hey, like, please don't die, like, you can't be dead. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do without you. Oh man, we had so many great moments and uplifting moments in this show, for it to just end on such a like almost an aimless part, where it's like, you don't know what, now she doesn't know what to do. She's kind of on her own, and it was just a very, very well done way to end it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we had basically the emotional high of the relationship. We had them at their highest moments in this episode. Them bonding and having conversations and like thinking about like, you know, different dreams and stuff and like what they would want in another life, and for that to just be taken away just so quickly and so almost unceremoniously, you know, like just him getting stabbed by that handle of a baseball bat. It's like, it just goes to show that this world is just so brutal, you know, and you know, someone that you love or someone that you have a relationship with can just be taken away from you like that. So what a shocking moment to end this episode on, and for, you know, for the people watching, it's like, you know, what's gonna happen next, like where do we go from here, if the implication of the end of the episode actually, you know, is what it is. It's like, dang, like we just got through this great emotional episode where characters, you know, are having conversations and spilling it all out, and for it to just be boom taken away like that, like where do we go next? So yeah, what a cliffhanger to leave us all on.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how people reacted to it when they haven't seen the show or played the game, I mean. So man, I'm looking forward to the rest of the show. They hinted that we're finally going to meet Riley next week, which is played by Storm Reed, who is amazing on Euphoria. I loved her in whatchamacallit. She was Invisible Man, and she was in Suicide Squad. I think I loved her better in Suicide Squad because she was hilarious. But
oh yeah, and she was recently in that movie Missing, and that was actually really good. And she was good in it.
I saw The Searching. I never saw Missing, so I got to see that one. But
you got to search for the missing. That's what you got to do.
You know it, Bird. But everybody else, what did you think of this episode? Were you emotionally uplifted? Did you feel the bruises from the gut punch, or was it just like, meh, you got to have more zombies? Which again it's fine if you feel that way. I disagree with you harshly, but you know, we all have our opinions, and that's totally fine. That's why we're the Bodacious Rant. We rant about whatever. But stay tuned for that, guys. We got more movies coming out, so I'm excited to see those, and of course, more the rest of The Last of Us, and Mando season 3 comes out in just a week or so. So it's gonna be a big one too.
We get some more Pedro. You know, we can't be mad at that.
We can't get enough of Pedro. No, we can't. Until next time, guys. Stay bodacious and keep on ranting for the both of us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.